Now, when we talk about polyurethanes, I don't want to get into the chemistry too deeply, but there are two families of polyurethanes that we look at when we look at polyurethane resins. And if we look at both of these materials, let's see here. They're both clear, although this one has gotten kind of yellowed. And when this started out, it was almost as clear as this one. But this is probably what the lion's share of these products are, is this family. This is called the aromatic polyurethanes. And aromatic polyurethanes are probably, well, they are the safest urethane resins to use in a studio environment. On the other side of the street, we have what's called aliphatic polyurethanes. The aliphatic polyurethanes, it's kind of like, why does Mother Nature do this to us? The best stuff is always the most toxic or the most expensive or all of the above. So where this polyurethane will stay literally water clear like this, even when it's put outdoors, it's also the most toxic. I would not recommend that you use it in this kind of an environment. Polyester has a very strong odor. Just because you smell something doesn't mean it's going to kill you necessarily. It's sometimes the stuff that you can't smell that'll kill you. And we'll talk about that as well as time goes on. This particular resin, as lovely as it is, will kill you. And I can tell you horror stories where people did get quite ill from using that product. And the problem is the vapors don't have any smell. So you can't smell those vapors. You can't tell when they're intruding on your workspace or your living space. Contrary to polyester you can smell very easily and very readily, and it'll fill this space very quickly with an offensive odor. The aliphatic urethanes won't do that. And so you have no warning properties. So the only way you can really protect yourself effectively is if you have fresh air being fed into a hood that you're wearing, and or a fume hood where you can stand and work and all the vapors are being pulled away from. If you're working here, they're pulling them away from you, and so you're not breathing any of those vapors. Smooth-On, whose products we tend to represent in terms of these urethanes, on that particular product it says for industrial use only. And we only sell it in small quantities because we've had situations where people have gotten sickened by the resin, they've gotten injured physically from the resin. And what happens is if you come into contact with the resin, the first time it's kind of like poison oak. How many of you guys have had poison oak? Nasty stuff. So the first time you maybe came into contact with it, you might not have had a reaction from it, and maybe you didn't even know it. But subsequently you became sensitive to it, and that's what these materials are. They're all sensitizers. Even the epoxies to a certain degree are going to be sensitizers, but the urethanes especially so. And so these aliphatic and even aromatic urethanes on the A side, all the A side containers are going to be what we call isocyanates. They're going to be sensitizers. So if you get it a little bit on your skin, you may not get a reaction the first time, or the second time, or the 5th time, or the 10th time, but maybe the 11th time. Anytime you cross paths with an isocyanate, make sure that you pay special attention. I recommend that you wear gloves. Just, latex gloves will protect you. They don't have to be anything fancy. I know people have talked about being allergic to latex gloves. Very few people are allergic to latex gloves. But if you have to feel like you're doing it safer, get nitrile gloves or get some vinyl gloves or any kind of a rubber glove that will form a membrane that will protect you from being in direct contact with the resin itself. If I were going to work with any of these materials on a scale, and we've just done a couple of demonstrations here, so not much impact on any of us here or potential for that kind of impact today. But if you're going to work with any of these materials on any scale, skin protection, eye protection, lung protection. If and when you decide you want to work with any of these materials on a long-term basis, consult with somebody. Figure out what kind of protection you need to get in terms of exhaust, in terms of those 3 things I just spoke about: skin, lungs, eyes. The last thing you want to do is end up in an emergency room trying to figure out how to treat yourself after the fact. And really with epoxy, the resin side, not much going on. You know, most resins, pretty innocuous. On the hardener side, you've got some amines. Amines are like ammonia-related chemicals. They can be pretty strong. We have a new system nowadays where everybody has to abide by a new mandate. It's a worldwide mandate. And if you look at new labels, they're going to have pictograms on them that speak specifically to certain systems, your lungs, your eyes, your skin, etc., and what kind of protection, or if you need to protect. And in the case of the resin itself, not much on there. You know, it's got a warning. You know, be careful. But this one, it's got a couple of things on there. Your eyes, your skin, most notably. So you want to be wary of all that stuff. You know, again, going back to the beginning of this talk, I don't want people to be afraid of what they're going to use. I want them to respect it and know what they're working with. Be informed. You know, get out there and read those data sheets. Every package that Smooth On makes and every package that we ship has a safety data sheet in it. It's going to have all those warnings on it, all the pictograms that tell you what you need to do to protect yourself. And if you abide by that, you're going to be fine. If you abuse it, you're going to get in trouble. So basically the question is it only toxic while it's in the liquid state? Yeah, pretty much. There really isn't anything coming off of here any longer once it cures. And so what's happened is all those dancers, guess what? They're all dancing. They're all bound together. They're all partnered up. So nobody's going to leave the party. The one exception would be if you didn't pay particular attention to your mixing and you've got some excess material in there. Now you could still potentially have a problem with some toxicity, at least in terms of skin contact to a minor degree, in terms of vapor to a minor degree. It's not going to be much. But the main problem that you're going to face is that resin is not going to be cured completely. It's not going to be functioning at 100%. It's only going to be 90% or 80% or whatever.